On Christmas Day, 2020, the city of Nashville was caught in the center of a civilian attack. A mysterious vehicle roamed the empty streets as 2nd Avenue sat nearly unoccupied and families gathered to celebrate the holidays. A 63-year-old man, Anthony Quinn Warner, was the man behind the wheel that morning. He was driving an older model RV registered to his name. Minutes later, a bomb went off inside the RV and caused damages to over 40 local businesses. More than a year prior, police were called to the home of a Nashville woman who lived next to Warner. According to the police report, she claimed Mr. Warner had been making bombs inside of an RV outside of his home, and she could not die until she saved the innocent civilians from Mr. Warner. Later that day, police approached the home of Mr. Warner, but felt they lacked evidence to obtain a search warrant and eventually left the residence. Could more have been done that day to prevent the actions in the future? One thing for sure, preventing an investigation into a situation that caused such harm as this can have no positive effect on our society. And with all that being said, the United States should continue to utilize mass surveillance and construct stricter processes that govern its use in order to ensure the safety of American citizens. Mass surveillance is indiscriminate. It uses systems or technologies that collect, analyze, or generate data on a large number of people. It proactively aims at identifying a danger rather than investigating a known threat. Throughout the argument, I will touch on both privacy and security. Privacy, while these are simple, they're necessary. Privacy is the state or condition of being free from being observed or disturbed by other people. Security is the state of being free from a danger or a threat. The Fourth Amendment will also be referred to multiple times throughout this argument. The Fourth Amendment reads, "The right of the people to be secure in their houses, persons, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be seized and the persons or things to be seized." In 1791, James Madison's Bill of Rights was released, which included the Fourth Amendment. With this act, the government required a warrant to search one's belongings. But as the clock ticks, things change. Technology has evolved and revolutionized the world we live in today. All good things come with an equal evil. The internet played an influential role in giving members of Al-Qaeda the ability to pull off 9/11. In the wake of the September attacks, the Patriot Act was passed to regulate communication and travel codes in airports. Over a decade later, an NSA contractor, Edward Snowden, leaked classified documents that the United States government was using to protect the nation and resolve internet security issues around the world. Americans cited that they were being undermined and their constitutional right to privacy had been squandered. In a post-9/11 America, security and surveillance are two words that now carry different meanings. On one hand, you have the government and the agencies that work in accordance with it. And on the other, you have American citizens, each holding a different set of beliefs. The first belief is that in the realm of security and surveillance, privacy does not exist. By any means necessary, their job is to ensure the safety of American citizens. But the same American citizens that they are trying to protect are not willing to give up a small percentage of their privacy in order to give those agencies the keys to protection. After the attacks, mass surveillance was labeled exclusively with terrorism. Mass surveillance has been proven as a civilian protection program and has limited crime in other countries around the world through many methods. In 2017, a violent crime was committed in America every 26.4 seconds. That number translates to 3,512 violent crimes per day and 1,281,951 violent crimes in the calendar year. In 2010, the Swedish National Council for Crime Prevention reported that the presence of CCTV cameras served as a crime deterrent. In the sampled areas, surveillance cameras caused a 16% decrease in crime compared to areas with no surveillance cameras. By applying that 16% decrease to the crimes committed in 2017 in America, 205,000 violent crimes could have been prevented that calendar year. American citizens should be willing to surrender some privacy in order to improve the overall security of our nation. It seems rather reasonable for a nation to assume a minor inconvenience to further the advancement of security in its nation. Driving anywhere throughout the United States, you may see some large black poles at intersections. Those poles are home to license plate readers. An automated license plate reader, ALPRs, is a high-speed, high-resolution camera that captures hundreds of plate numbers per minute. Those numbers are then taken and matched against those of suspects and criminals and terrorists. In March 2014, Kansas City residents reported being shot at while driving on their local freeway. 12 separate occurrences were attributed to a single perpetrator, Mohammed Pedro Whitaker. A crucial breakthrough came from a woman who encountered Whitaker manipulating traffic, targeting her specifically. She managed to escape, but not before noting Whitaker's license plate number. This information proved pivotal as police used data from ALPRs on 4 separate occasions to identify Whitaker's green Dodge Neon. With probable cause, a search of Whitaker's residence took place, in which the gun used in all 12 occurrences was found. Without the data collected, the woman's information might have been rendered useless, potentially endangering the community. Much like the implementation of TSA in airports after 9/11, Americans today have an opportunity to combat everything from common crime to murder to trafficking. Americans must put their pride aside and unite under one commonality: safety. Mass surveillance should be viewed no differently than local law enforcement policing the streets. If police have reason to suspect that a vehicle has been used in the commission of a crime, they can follow that vehicle until they believe there is enough reasonable suspicion to conduct a stop. Policemen are trained and hired to make quick decisions and use discretionary judgment in situations when crime is a possibility. With that being said, not all suspicious activity results in a stop. This is all similar to NSA's use of programs in the past to seek out criminals and terrorists. Lawyer and professor Alan Dershowitz says, not all criminals walk around with C's on criminals don't walk around with big C's on their heads. So how are police and higher agencies expected to protect their citizens from crime when they are not allowed to proactively look for it? America and its warrant basis is founded solely on probable cause. Probable cause is defined as reasonably trustworthy information sufficient to warrant that a particular person has committed or is committing an offense. Police use tactics such as stakeouts to obtain probable cause. They have apprehended drug lords and sex traffickers on multiple occasions. But the government is not allowed to monitor suspicious text chains or watch online transactions. The goal of a stakeout is to take in criminals who hurt, kill, and even occasionally torture innocent Americans. The acts of terrorism constitute the same consequences for American citizens. So why are the same rules not applied? It may be time to reconsider the boundaries set in place surrounding terrorism prevention and accept that all this evil falls under the same judicial umbrella. Opposing sides argue that surveilling a person should be prohibited until they have committed an identifiable wrongdoing that warrants probable cause. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, FISA Court, is the official boundary for what the FBI is allowed to do in conducting surveillance. In America, the presumption of innocence exists, which assumes the innocence of the accused before being prosecuted. The reason this is so important is because the burden of proof lies in the prosecution's corner. It is their job to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty through evidence obtained legally. It would be unconstitutional to begin surveilling a suspect solely based on their possibility of committing a crime. In response to the opposition's claim, what is truly responsible about surveilling an individual after they cause harm to others or destroy vital infrastructure? When the resources exist to prevent an attack, why not take action? With the advancements of artificial intelligence and its amazing capabilities, why not let the government use its full set of tools? A criminal could not argue that public surveillance is discriminatory when everyone is captured and framed, innocent or guilty. If anything, it is inclusive. It seems irresponsible to cater to the needs of society when it compromises the security of others. Most Americans believe they are entitled to know the information being shared about their personal lives and how it is being used to advance the security of their nation. The opposition will use two principles of support: transparency and accountability. Barack Obama credits a thriving democracy on the ability to be transparent with its citizens. The Bush administration failed to do so in the wake of the September attacks. One of the most important pieces of a thriving democracy is its ability, or is a united trust between the leaders and the Commonwealth. Holding each other accountable is one of the strongest bonds two parties can have. As easy as it sounds, it has not been achieved graciously in the recent history of this country. A solution to this is to keep all plans public to give the people a voice. The opposing side will argue that it is entitled to certain liberties, which, while being true, may not bring the best outcome as a whole. Some things are better off unspoken or even withheld. As it pertains to national security, the information collected and the acts prevented should be kept confidential in order to deter copycats. The Bible talks of sinful nature and its inevitable effects on society and humankind. Galatians 5:17 says, "For the flesh desires what is contrary to the spirit, and the spirit what is contrary to the flesh." We live in an imperfect world where sin is always prevalent. Some people live solely for worldly desires. Those people should not be shown the blueprint for organized crime and how it can be carried out flawlessly. It must be heavily considered what is truly necessary for the public to know and what is better off kept behind closed doors. America runs off the flames burning from the fires of our forefathers. Opponents will argue that one of the most important pieces of American legislation is the Fourth Amendment. Since its inception, Americans have been protected from unreasonable searches barring probable cause. But what exactly is unreasonable, and how is it determined? An unreasonable search would be warrantless. An exception to this would be a stop following a police chase in which police can conduct a stop and frisk search. Frisking is using your hands to pat down another person's clothing to find illegal contraband or weapons on the individual's body. With America's existing legislation, there should be no surveillance on a possible suspect before an action meets the requirement for a warrant. 4 million to 340 million. That is the population change in America from 1791 to today. The Constitution worked perfectly in the beginning because it was tailor-made for a small agrarian society. America's forefathers built the structural code with the idea that it would be adapted to over time with the technological advancements. The goal would not be to extinguish the Fourth Amendment fully, but rather to realign its verbiage and goals with today's world and technological developments. The United States government should continue to utilize mass surveillance and construct stricter processes that govern its use in order to ensure the safety of American citizens. To effectively provide a new perspective, mass surveillance was discussed accordingly. It should not be exclusively seen as terrorism prevention. Furthermore, American citizens should be willing to surrender a small percentage of their privacy in order to further the security of their nation. Having this minor inconvenience, rather than potential lives lost, will be more beneficial long term. And lastly, mass surveillance shares more qualities with basic law enforcement than people are aware of. This thesis hopes to have opened a blanket of comfort surrounding the topic of mass surveillance. Remember that clarity, transparency, and accountability keep a thriving democracy running. Look to hold the government accountable while giving it the keys to return the favor and securing the nation Americans proudly call home. Thank you.